Alrighty, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to American Orthodoxy. This is going to be episode 4 because I decided to renumber the episodes just so that it wouldn't be confusing as far as which of my shows are actually the standard format, with going over current events and then going over political topics such as immigration and the JQ, foreign influence, and things of these nature. That's going to be the normal setup for my show. Except on Thursdays, I'm going to be going over reaction streams for my prior content, such as my debates. And so a lot of you guys tuned in on Thursday, and I went over my reaction with Pine Sap, my reaction with my debate with Pine Sap. And so you guys can head over there and check that out. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. Excited to be here. And thank you for all of the memberships. I'm already at 13 memberships. So if you're interested in supporting me monthly, you can sign up for memberships there. And then I'm going to be, once I hit 20 members, after every stream, I'll be doing a live stream for just members only. So we got a lot of big things coming up. I have a lot of collabs coming up next week. I just collabed with World War Now. I'm collabing with Buck Johnson. I'm collabing with John Heers. Collabing with a couple other Protestant creators as well. So we have a lot of big collabs coming up in the coming weeks. And then after I'm through kind of the first wave of collabs is when I'm going to start doing my call-in show, where I do sort of some live interaction with people and some live debating over on TikTok and here on YouTube. It'll all be streamed over here on YouTube. But as of now, this will be episode 4 of my standard format American Orthodoxy show, and that'll be every Tuesday and Saturday. And then on Thursdays will be my React stream. So with all that being said, thank you guys for all of the support. Thank you guys for making, so far, I just broke 5,000 subscribers already. I think I've been on YouTube for 12 days, and so that's insane. My first episode is still running. It just hit 7,500 views, which is crazy for a 2-hour stream and a first episode ever on YouTube. So, hey, we're just getting started. Thank you guys for the support. Please like the live. Please subscribe to get it out to the algorithm. And like I said, if you want to support me, I'm now monetized over here, so you can send super chats right here on YouTube, and I will go over all those at the end. And you can also sign up for memberships. And once I hit 20 members, which I'm really close to right now, I have 13, then I'll start doing live streams for members only. And then also I'll follow you back on social media. And if you have questions about Orthodoxy or whatever, I'll go over those with you with priority, because like I said, I try to get through all my DMs, but I obviously give priority to all my paid subscribers and things of that nature. And also, if you're interested in my debate notes, if you're a paid subscriber on any platform, whether it be YouTube, Substack, or Twitter, I will send you my debate notes by request. All right, so let's dive into the current events for the week. So it's been a insane week. We didn't get to go over anything on Thursday because I was reacting to my debate with Pine Sap. And thank you for making that video a success. That one is also doing very well in the algorithm. So a couple things I want to go over. So yesterday, a lot of you guys saw a tweet by Trump that's kind of making its rounds, which I found to be a little bit funny here. So this is from, if you can see the date here, this is from 2015, and Trump is literally talking about Sheldon Adelson, who has since passed away, and his wife has essentially taken over the reins, Miriam Adelson. But he says this: Sheldon Adelson is looking to give big dollars to Rubio, also who is in Trump's administration right now, because he feels he can mold him to his perfect little puppet. I agree. Now, those of you guys who know anything about Trump, he has taken literally millions from the Adelson family. You can see here over 100 million. It's probably substantially larger number than that, but at the bare minimum, $100 million that he has taken. And so it's just ironic, you know. A lot of these old tweets. There's old tweets about starting a war with Iran. There's old tweets about various donors, akin to this tweet, and it's just ironic. It's like Tucker's been talking about this as well. It seems like Trump has turned into the very person that he ran his entire initial campaign against. His entire initial campaign was literally targeting, the deep state, the rhinos, and it's like this is the population that now he is trying to appeal to. Just about all those people that he was trying to drag through the mud back in 2015, 2016 timeframe has since supported him. And rather than them sort of molding themselves to him, it's been quite the opposite. So here we are in 2026, and Donald Trump has taken millions from Miriam Adelson, who, by the way, those of you who don't know, Miriam Adelson, the Adelson family, they literally make their millions, their billions, overseas in China via casinos. So they do business deals between the United States and China, and all of it is, or most of their money is made by casinos in China. That's how Miriam Adelson is so wealthy. So this is the person, and by the way, I'm going to probably go over a lot more with Massey coming up next week when I do my Tuesday stream. But it's very clear that his opponent is literally just a puppet. Has received $10 million from the likes of Miriam Adelson. And so, you can have your valid critiques about Massey. That's fine. Listen, I'm not a Massey shill. I think Massey's an American hero for what he's done in exposing AIPAC. Let's be real. Before Thomas Massey went on that interview with Tucker 2 years ago, how many of you guys really knew about AIPAC? Not a lot of people. That viral video where he's talking about each individual AIPAC person that every single member of the GOP in Congress has, that checks on them every time they come to DC, that was Massey. That was Massey's video that went crazy viral, and that's the reason why many of us even know about AIPAC or the Israeli lobby at all. Speaking of which, I'm going to be doing a full episode on this book coming up. So in that respect, Thomas Massey is an American hero. I'm not saying I'm a Massey shill. There's obviously problems with some of his views on immigration. Now, he's against birthright citizenship. He's made this abundantly clear over and over and over again. However, what he has done against the Israeli lobby and just exposing it has been so substantial that I would consider him to be an American hero just by that alone. So I want to go over a white pill this week because, I think it's especially this week with all the wars, so he's not a Freemason. This is not true. So he has ties to, I just want to refute this because it was in the comments. He has ties to a youth organization that has ties to Freemasonry, but there's no evidence that he himself is an actual Freemason. So, and if he is, okay, that's obviously not good. However, again, because of what he accomplished via exposing AIPAC, I would still consider him to be a hero. He's also a staunch pro-life advocate. So this is a man and he's an honorable man, it appears. He's a man whose homesteads literally built with his own hands, his home, his house. And so this is a man that I believe is honorable. And like I said, I'm going to go into detail on Massey and kind of go line by line on a lot of the policies. Excuse me. So I've been trying to get over this freaking cold for like weeks, and I'm mostly over it. It's literally just the cough. I literally just have like a lingering cough. So I'm going to go probably line by line, though, because his election is coming up here. His primary is coming up here on May 19th, and I'm going to be going over welcome, guys. We're getting our viewership up. Please like the live. Please subscribe. And like I said, I'll go over all the super chats at the end that are now over here on YouTube, so you can super chat me right here. And then memberships are also live. Yes, please hit the like and subscribe. And welcome to all our new viewers. Let's get this out there to the algorithm. Right now, my Instagram and my Twitter are like super shadow banned. Well, especially my Instagram. My Twitter's doing okay, but my Instagram is like insanely shadow banned. Ever since I posted that video last week talking about white genocide, and how we are not able to talk about our own race. We're the only ones that are not able to talk about that. So ever since I posted that video, my Instagram has been very shadow banned. So please help me out by pushing this out to the algorithm, sharing my content. I'm at Real Ben Michael on all platforms, especially Instagram and Twitter. All right. So sorry I got distracted with the comments there. I just want to refute the notion about him being a Freemason. Love you guys too. So there is a white pill this week. A lot of you guys saw this. So in the UK, Rupert Lowe, so he's sort of the head of the Restore Britain party. So in the UK, they have a very similar dynamic that we have here. They have a two-party system, and very similar to here, it's very much a uniparty. And so a lot of them see reform Britain as a pseudo movement that's not actually grounded in any of the values of restoring the UK to its greatness. And so Rupert Lowe founded the Restore Britain Party. Now all of the leaders of the pseudo right wing, the Reform Britain, all of them were sort of ostracizing Restore, saying they're not going to get any of the vote. And then when the time came for election, just about 36 hours ago, I believe, Restore won in a landslide all 10 seats that they were running. So every single seat that Restore Britain was running for, they won in a landslide. By substantial margins, they defeated all of their opponents. And so this is just a huge white pill to me, because, a lot of you guys maybe feel like we're in a position here in the United States and in the West where voting doesn't matter. We can't vote our way out of this. And, the problem I have with people that say that is like, what exactly are you presenting as an option? Because one of the things that Restore has done it's really offered a lot of these people that don't normally vote. One of the things that Rupert was talking about yesterday is that a lot of voters that usually don't vote were actually activated during this election. And if you actually look in a lot of in the United States here, if it's a non-presidential election, it's actually crazy how many people don't vote. I mean, usually it's like in the state elections where there's not a presidential election, usually it's around 15 to 20% of the population votes. And so what this party was able to do is just activate a lot of those voters that don't normally show. And I think in the United States, we have a chance to still take over the GOP. I'm not sure if a third party is an option, is really a reasonable option at this point in the United States. And I also think the GOP is salvageable. A lot of you guys that are on the ground level know this. You see a lot of the people that are really working on this in college Republicans and young Republicans and across the GOP infrastructure. And you have a lot of like-minded people like us who are tired of foreign influence. We're tired of our people being replaced. And so, yeah, a lot of the boomer population is still maintaining those same, boomerisms of, supporting legal immigration and funding, for the military-industrial complex. And a lot of these things are true for the vast majority of the GOP right now. However, there's this whole population of young people that are rising up in the ranks and are really finding that they can have influence over these organizations and can start to get rid of this foreign influence and this sentiment of like legal migration and anyone can be American, the Republican Party of Vivek, which we are going to talk about right now, actually, because a lot of you guys saw the Twitter war, and I'm not going to go into like extreme detail of the incidents that happened here with Fuentes and with Dan Bilzerian. I did tweet a few things out, and I'll be going over kind of my critiques, and also I'll try to give you guys an objective summary of what happened. So basically, in the last couple of weeks, some of the things that have made people upset with what Nick has been saying is, he came out and he said that immigration is a dead issue. He said, I'm going back to bed. And that if that's the issue, then he's basically throwing in the towel. But that he primarily is just focused on dethroning Israel, which I've talked about multiple times. That I see Israel and replacement as really at the same level of priority. I think one is the symptom and the other is the disease. And we really have to deal with both simultaneously because the symptom, which is immigration, has gotten so bad as a result of the disease, which is the Jewish influence. Look, it's gotten so bad that we have to deal with the symptom as well directly. We can't just deal with the disease. We have to deal with both simultaneously. And that's been my position since really forever. And so anyway, so that was the first thing that Nick said. Then what happened was Vivek's opponent, Casey Puch, or Pooch, Pooch, he actually was counter signaling him, and I'll show you guys here. What happened with Dan is Dan Bilzerian ends up calling out Nick for being a Fed over counter signaling Casey, who again was running against Vivek, and so. So I'll show you guys here what the tweet was. If you just give me a moment. So this is the tweet and this is, you can see the things that he particularly was critiquing him of. So he says he's a Fed, which, I mean, obviously, like, that's a big question, question mark that I think a lot of people have. Says that he's so constant division. This is a critique I've made in the past, is like, he went on Tucker and then he immediately started attacking Tucker after, went on Candace and then refused to have a live discussion about their dispute afterwards. So anyways, this is what Dan had to say about it. And then he was obviously upset that Nick is literally endorsing a Jewish woman, a Jewish Democrat, so an abortionist who literally has been advocating for mass migration, for abortion, and so Amy Atkin is running against Vivek, and that's who Nick is now advocating for supporting. So that's kind of the critique that Dan had. And then the other thing too was, so basically all this happened, right? All of this happened, and then what ended up as a result of all of this, Dan ends up getting accused by Nick of attacking, of wanting to attack like Israeli officials. So Nick ends up tweeting back saying, "Hey, when I was over at Dan's house, he tried to tell us that he was, planning these attacks on Israeli officials and all these things of this nature, and which is obviously, maybe you believe it, maybe you don't, but anyways, that was the objective fact that he was accusing him of." And then Jake Shields and all these people came out saying, "Look, I was there. That didn't happen." Lucas Gage came up in favor of Nick, saying, "Hey, he told me something similar a few months prior." But all these witnesses that were there are saying it didn't happen. Then the Return to the Land guy, he also posted a video, and his critique was basically, this is the critique that the Return to the Land guy said, was he said, "Look, like, if Nick is receiving like all this money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, like, what has he built with it? Is he really an advocate for our movement if he hasn't built anything with this money?" And so anyways, all this to say, this has been the drama that's happened, and this is what started the entire civil war over on right-wing Twitter. And so, yeah, here we are. Just about every major creator now that supported Nick, Nick has burned a bridge with, and that includes Candace, Tucker, Bilzerian, Ian Carroll. And look, you don't have to like these people, but I'm just pointing out the objective fact that these are people with huge audiences. I mean, you can go and look at Tucker's audience. You can go look at Candace's audience. And the reality is, they have substantial platforms. They have substantial audiences. regularly on their streams and on their videos. And so the reality is that like these bridges were burned, and that's just an objective fact. So anyways, I didn't have much to say. One thing I did want to point out though is, a lot of people I saw a lot of people saying that basically, hey, Nick is the one that like brought all this to light, and so therefore we have to remain loyal to him. And I just pulled out the old Pat Buchanan stuff, and some people were saying that Pat Buchanan was not mainstream, which is just pure and utter nonsense. Pat Buchanan was literally on the Nixon administration. He was on the Reagan administration. He ran for president against Bush Sr. And this is how open he was about the same issues that Nick is. Literally says, after World War II, Jewish influence over foreign policy became almost an obsession with American leaders. I know the power of the Israeli lobby and other lobbies, but we need a foreign policy that puts our country first. Does that sound familiar? So I don't believe that this is good logic. If this is your reasoning that, he was first, I think that's bad logic. And that's definitely not something that I think is going to hold up. So all this to say, this has been the Twitter war that's been going on for those of you that are maybe not caught up on everything that's been going on these last couple days. How you guys doing? We doing all right? Welcome everybody. Please like and subscribe. We're going to be diving into. So today I have a. Once I get into the main event here, I'm going to be going over a lot of the history of the migration crisis and replacement migration. And so I'm looking forward to diving into that. I want to go over a few other current events before we get started into that. You guys doing good? Yeah. A lot of people made some funny comparisons regarding the comparison of voting for Democrats, and there was a funny analogy I saw that I'll show you guys here. Some of you guys may have seen this on Twitter. I'm actually not gonna. You guys can go see it. It's by Owen Benjamin. It's a funny tweet. It's maybe not very edifying, so I'm not gonna read it. But you guys can go check it out for yourself. How you guys doing? Happy Saturday. We're here having a good time here, and I'm excited to dive into the main event because it's a topic that I really am passionate about. All right. So just some brief news regarding Orthodoxy that's a little bit more edifying. So they're making moves over in Georgia on appointing the next patriarch of Georgia. So first of all, go over and support UOJ America. These guys are awesome. Ben Dixon and Catherine Whiteford are involved over here, and they are awesome. They're dear brother and sister there, and they have great content for keeping up with news in the Orthodox Church. And he is this is going to be a replacement of the prior patriarch, which I want to tell you guys a story about because he really is inspirational to the entire nation of Georgia and really across the world in the Orthodox world. Because Patriarch Ilya, literally, when the population crisis was happening in Georgia not too long ago, just back in 2007, he actually incentivized boosting birth rates. They had tried all these government programs. So Georgia was basically, their population was going in the tank, and they had tried all these government programs. And Patriarch Ilya basically said, hey, look, I will baptize every third child born to a family. So if you have 3 kids, I will baptize the third kid. And what ended up happening was a 42% spike in the birth rate in Georgia. And this just shows how, like, the Orthodox faith has to be the fabric of a society. And this is what a lot of people get wrong. A lot of people misunderstand what I'm doing over here. Like, I want to make it very clear. The reason why I wanted to call this show American Orthodoxy is because the Orthodox faith has to be the fabric of this movement. And so that is what the very DNA of this movement is. And it's because of things like this. It's the Orthodox Church that allows us to boost something like our birth rate and incentivize it via baptism. I mean, how cool is that? And so he's a future saint. There's already been reported miracles. And so he's being replaced because he recently reposed. So memory eternal. Pray for us. I believe that Lord willing, there will be a staunch traditionalist that will replace him just as he was. So pray for that. All right. Yes. CZC, pray for us as well. So one last thing before we dive into the main event of the day. Those of you who follow UFC, tonight is a big fight. And so I would encourage you guys to tune in. Sean Strickland he's an American. I don't believe he's a Christian by label, but he does advocate for, a lot of conservative values pretty openly. And I'm definitely not like endorsing him as a person, but I will say that him in this fight versus Hamza it's a big fight. A lot of anticipation coming up for this. Hamza is a Muslim. I can't stand him. These Muslims over in Russia, they literally ground fight from like age 3. And so they're just excellent ground fighters, very akin to how a lot of the Georgians are. Unfortunately, none of the Georgians that we have that fight are big enough to fight him. And so Sean Strickland is going to fight him. So may Archangel Michael be with Sean tonight and maybe tune into that fight. I'm not optimistic. I don't think many people are. But I would just encourage you guys to maybe tune in and pull for our boy Sean there tonight. All right. So before we dive in to the main event, how are you guys doing? So there's already miracle, the removal of the Bishop of Cross of Valerian of Russia. Yeah. So I'm actually not familiar with that miracle. So if you want to drop the link for that. Yeah, that's interesting. But I know there was miracles right after his repose. All right. We're finally getting our viewership up. That's good. Glory to God. Please like the live. Push it out. Like I said, I'm just like crazy shadow banned right now over on Twitter on Instagram. My Twitter is actually doing fine, but over on Instagram, I'm crazy shadow banned. So please, if you wouldn't mind pushing out the live. All right. So I want to dive into the main event today, which is going over replacement migration. A lot of you guys know that this particular topic is a big reason why I started this show. It's a big reason why I care about politics at all, is the replacement of my people in my homeland, and the replacement of my brothers by blood in Europe, particularly in the UK. And I struggle because oftentimes I'm being told that I can't that's not Orthodox, to be anti-migration and all these things. And you guys know that you guys have seen my threads that I've posted. I'm very careful about how I go about this issue. I do significant amount of research. There should be, for link to send super chats, you should be able to send super chats right through YouTube here. So you shouldn't need a link. People were able to send super chats on Thursday. So it should be right there. You should be able to send it. Mods maybe help out and direct people where that is. Maybe, so I started a goal. Maybe that will allow you guys to find it easier. Let me know if that works. Okay. All right. Happy Saturday, everybody. Christ is risen. Sorry, this cough is killing me. All right. Okay. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. All right. I promise we're getting into the main event of the stream right now. All right. So you guys know this is very important to me, is the replacement of my people. And, anybody that goes out, look, you go to a freaking Costco and there's photos of Costco that I literally saw on Twitter last week, and it literally looks like Saudi Arabia. And you guys saw my video of me when I went into the mall in Virginia. It literally looks like it's freaking Saudi Arabia. And so look, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with in the country right now. And when I talk about it, I get labeled. It's funny, this alone, is its own propaganda. Look at this. So this is from 2022. The Jerusalem Post, oh, shocker. The Jerusalem Post is talking about, the white supremacist great replacement theory. Because yeah, it's white supremacy to talk about our own people being ethnically cleansed from our homeland. Because, by the way, that's what's happening. What is happening is our own people are being ethnically cleansed, and that's what anyone else would call it. If Europeans were going to Nigeria and Nigerians were becoming minorities there, and the Europeans were becoming the majority, everyone would call that ethnic cleansing. But when it happens where third worlders are coming into Western countries, now all of a sudden, not only is it not ethnic cleansing, it's actually a white supremacist great replacement conspiracy theory. That's what it's been labeled. That's what it's been labeled for literally decades. Decades we've been dealing with this. This nonsense label getting called, there's a freaking swastika here. They're saying this is equivalent. They're literally calling us a Nazi for literally just believing that we don't deserve to have our people replaced in our own homelands. And this is the type of imagery that the Jerusalem Post and New York Times, everybody who knows who owns New York Times, it's this type of content that they're pushing. This is the type of messaging that gets pushed just for us standing up for our own people. So I'm going to debunk. I'm going to go line by line through this and give you guys a little bit of a history lesson of where this comes from, this replacement migration. And first and foremost, I want you guys to see that this is not a conspiracy theory. How many times have you guys heard that the Great Replacement is a conspiracy theory? It's a white supremacist conspiracy theory, and yet this is literally a UN document titled Replacement Migration. This is an official United Nations document from the year 2000. And it literally goes over, look at all of the countries. It literally goes over replacement migration for all of these countries. France, Germany, UK, United States, all of Europe, EU. You call this a conspiracy theory? You can read through this document. And it goes line by line through all of their plans to literally replace our people. And not only this, but George Soros has laid out his plan. I believe it's a 2015 document that George Soros laid out talking about the same thing and how he's going to be funding it. And I get labeled a conspiracy theory for talking about this when it's an open document that anybody can read. So, look, you can call me. This is the funny thing. Is like, I get called names quite a bit. Almost never do people actually deal with my arguments when I talk about immigration. I post on Instagram and on Twitter and my comments here on YouTube, people calling me a supremacist, people saying I'm CIA and all these things, and how I need to talk to my priest and all these things. And it's like, what is your actual response? Like, do you have a response of substance to the content I'm making? Or are you just going to call me hateful? Are you just not going to engage with the content? So I'm showing you a UN document that literally lays out this plan. And you guys have heard me cite Emma Lazarus multiple times. And those of you who are unfamiliar with Emma Lazarus, thank you for the super chats, guys. Yes, we're kind of finally getting out into the algorithm. So please like the live and push it out there. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. So this is the New Colossus poem, which a lot of people are unfamiliar with. Literally came from a 5th generation Jewish woman by the name of Emma Lazarus. And this poem, it basically, this is the full poem here. This is the famous line, "Give me your tired, your poor, huddled masses yearning to breathe free." And it's the famous line that's on the Statue of Liberty. And you can see here, she says this: eventually she saw her Jewishness had given her outsider status in American life. So she famously really never really considered herself to be an American. And this is something that Codriano talks about, is a lot of times these people, they don't actually assimilate. They don't consider themselves American. And you see this in the modern day with the Muslim migrants that are here, because they consider themselves Somali. They consider themselves, a belonging to their home nation. They don't consider themselves American. And if they do, it's hyphenated American. But you can see during the pogroms of the 1880s, she was articulating Zionist sentiments before the word Zionist was coined. So she's a Zionist before Zionism was invented. And this is the woman who wrote the most famous poem regarding mass migration in American history. So again, but I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy theorist for pointing this out when this is open for anybody to read about. See, famously advocated for Jews of all classes and nationalities, espousing universalism over tribalism in her writings. Universalism over tribalism in her writings. But yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist. That couldn't be more clear. That couldn't possibly be more clear. So this kind of lays the groundwork. So these melting pot principles, the Emma Lazarus poem, the New Colossus, these are laying the groundwork for the individual that then would come by the name of Kalergi. Now, this is where, again, there's accusations of conspiracy theory. And yet, this stuff is open and available for anyone to read about. So how can it be a conspiracy theory when it's literally public knowledge? It's public for anybody to read about. You can see right here. So famously, Kalergi wrote what is called the Practical Idealism. Is the book that he wrote. Now, Calorgy himself was not Jewish, but he was married to a Jewish woman who was 13 years older than him. He was married to a Jewish woman who was 13 years older than him, and he was a Jewish supremacist. He believed that they were the master race. He says this in this book. He says in the book, the man of the future will be of mixed race. Today's races and classes will gradually disappear owing to the vanishing of spaces, times, and prejudice. So he's literally talking right here about the replacement of the European population. He's openly talking about this in Practical Idealism. He lays out his plan for it. So people will say this is some sort of conspiracy. This Calorgy plan is just a conspiracy, when in reality it's open and available for anybody to read about. All of it is. Like, how many times, if you bring this up with a normie, or if you Google it, that's what you're going to be accused of. And so I want to give you guys the receipts so that you are able to refute, the enemies of the truth. And here, I'll put each of these in the chat so you guys can see. I want you to be able to fact check these things. Okay? Like, I don't want you to take my word for it. I encourage people to fact check me. Don't take my word for it. Go look. Like, what is the response? What could possibly be the response to what I just showed you? Here, I want to make sure I don't miss any of these super chats. So let me start pinning some of them. Thank you guys for the super chats. Thank you guys for the subscribes. That's the biggest thing. I appreciate the super chats, but please subscribe and like the live, because, getting the content out there is way more important than the super chats. I really appreciate the super chats though, because they're allowing me to do what I do full time. So thank you for that. I'm going to go over all these at the end. I just want to make sure I don't miss any of them. I think I got all of them pinned now, so I can go over them at the end. Okay. So I want to give you guys the links so that you can see for yourself. I don't want you to take my word for it. So that being said, so after Calorgy lays out this plan in Practical Idealism, and he openly says that he wants to replace Europe and the entire West with third world migrants, which is exactly what we see happening today. Well, there's more to this story, because if you can take a wild guess as far as who was funding it, look at that. Rothschilds. So you can read right here who was funding this. Max Warburg. Rothschild. Baruch. 3 prominent Jewish banking families that are funding this. So wide open. They're literally telling on themselves. They're telling on themselves here. And anybody can go and read this. I'm making sure I put all of this in the chat for you guys. I want to make sure you guys have the tools necessary so that you can actually look into this stuff yourself, and you can see. You can see that I'm not making this up. Wide open for everybody in the world to see. And so when I start talking about how, this has been planned, this has been a scheme. This is not happening organically. Do you understand that? Do you understand that the replacement of our people here in the West is not happening organically? That's not what's happening. This has been designed from the beginning. We've been designed from the beginning to be replaced. And it's been a coordinated effort from the late 1800s, at least, as I showed with Emma Lazarus. And that's also the beginnings of the Zionist movement at the end of the 19th century. And all of these things are related. All of these things overlap because the globalist Jews who want the greater Israel, who are the right-wing Jews, are bombing the shit out of the Middle East. And then the left-wing Jews who run all the immigration policy in Europe and the United States, what are they doing? They're opening the borders. So all those people that have just been displaced by the greater Israel agenda, they're all coming into our countries. So this is very evident when you do like a little bit of research. It's not hard to find. I mean, they're telling on themselves with the EU headquarters. Now, a lot of people know about the infiltration of the European Union. But what a lot of people don't know is this dates back to the very beginning days. This is a statue outside of literally the European Union headquarters. It's a story. The title of this story is called The Rape of Europa. The Rape of Europa. That is the title of the story for this, that this statue represents, that is right outside of the European headquarters. And you can see what happens in the story. Look what happens. Rape and impregnates Europa. Right outside of the European Union headquarters. They're telling on themselves. They're literally telling on themselves. This couldn't be more clear. It couldn't be. And again, I want you guys to have this stuff so that you know and you're able to combat the enemies of the truth who try to gaslight us and say this is some sort of conspiracy. This is not a conspiracy. And, I know a lot of this stuff might be even elementary for a lot of you guys. That's fine. But the vast majority of people are not aware of this. They are not aware of this basic content that is very evident. I mean, literally the statue outside of the European Union headquarters. This is wide open for anyone to see. And most people don't know about this. So I know this is a little bit elementary for a lot of you guys, but I still have to talk about it. I have to go through these things so that people don't think that, oh, we're just conspiracy theorists. We have to bring normies in. That's the thing. See, a lot of you guys don't understand this. You see, various people's content, and hey, it's not extreme enough. You're not talking enough about the Jews. You're not going hard enough. You're not going far enough right. What you don't understand, what people like that don't understand, is that everybody fills a role. Everybody fills a role in getting people red-pilled on this stuff because the vast majority of people still don't understand it. And so the reason why this content matters, even if it's basic for a lot of you guys, is we're trying to get it out to the masses. And that's why I care way more about getting this content out to the masses than I care about anything else. Because I'm tired of this being out in the open and nobody seems to care. This is a crazy thing for nobody to seem to care about. And yet it's right here for anyone to go read, for anyone to go see. Anyone can go see this statue. Anyone can read what the story represents. Now, there's a clip I want to play by Eva. I have no idea how to say her last name. It's like 20 letters long. But you guys know who I'm talking about. I want to play a clip by her because she did a speech. I believe it was at CPAC on this very topic. Because there's another aspect to this. It's not just replacement. See, that's what people don't understand. They think this is just about replacement. It's not. It's not just about replacement. It's more about the protection of my own nation and my people. Because what is happening right now is these military-aged young men are coming into our countries and they're raping our women with little to no repercussions. I talked about this last stream, but there's literally a rape every 54 minutes in London, England. It is by far the rape capital of the world. As far as cities of the magnitude of London and its population size, it is by far, per capita, compared to any other city of its size, per capita, it is the rape capital of the world. And there's been a several thousand, like a 2,500% increase of sexual assault in London, England since the 1990s. 2,500% increase. What's the only thing that's changed in London from the 1990s to now? What's the only thing? I'll give you take a wild guess. Demographics. Bringing in people from countries that inbreed, where child marriage is legal, where they don't understand consent. Do you understand that across the Middle East, their inbreeding rate is like 50%? 50% inbreeding. Child marriage, openly legal in like 6 different Muslim countries. And these are the people, by the way, young men, military-aged men, that's who we're bringing in. We're bringing them in from these countries. So I want to show you guys this clip because I want you to know what time it is. I want you to know what our people are dealing with across the pond because it's coming here to the United States. See, I think, right now we're a little bit protected from a lot of this stuff here in the U.S. It's true. It's true that here in the U.S., we have not even started. This mass migration problem, the crime problem from mass migration, which we don't quite understand the magnitude of because of the African-American population that was already here, whereas in Europe, they didn't have that population. And so it's very evident when the crime increase is drastic. It's very evident what the cause is here in Europe. In the U.S., it's harder to gauge because of the African-American population that was already here. And so this is where you get the subversive data that's talking about how, migrants are actually, they commit less crimes. Migrants commit less crimes than Native Americans, than Native members of the United States. Really? First of all, let's think about the logic of that argument. Let's think about the logic of that argument for a second. Imagine if you are a father and you have some kid, 10-year-old kids, right? You have a 10-year-old kid, you have a 12-year-old kid, you have a 6-year-old kid, and you have your wife, right? And imagine that a stranger that you don't know knocks on your door and says, hey, man, I need a place to stay. Can I stay here? The obvious answer that any father should give, because he's protecting his home from a stranger who could harm his women and children, is no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Imagine if the stranger said, but I saw your 10-year-old steal from the store the other day. He stole a candy bar from the store, and I've never stolen anything. So you should let me in because I'm actually, I don't commit as much crime as your kid. Think about that logic. Does that even make any sense? Is that a justification for why the father should be able to let him into the home? Of course not. That's ridiculous. So why am I even being cited these crime statistics of migrants who come here? It doesn't matter. One crime is too many. One crime is too many. And that should be an automatic deportation. That's common sense to me. If you commit a crime, if you show up and you just got here, I don't care if you stole a freaking pencil, get out of my country. You just got here. If you're a guest in my house and you steal something, it doesn't matter how small it is. If you are a guest in my home and you steal something, you're gone, dude. I never want to see you again. The same logic applies to the nation. And if you want to know how to actually accomplish mass deportations, this is how you do it. You do it in basically you create a formula where you start, first of all, you start in waves, right? You start with the illegal immigration. Illegal immigration's easy. You get rid of all illegals. You debank them, which, by the way, they will leave immediately if you debank them. You pull all welfare programs from migrants. That's phase 2. Do you know how many migrants would leave? They're already leaving. Trump has barely done anything for stopping legal migration. But the little bit he's done is already causing these migrants to leave. If you pulled their welfare, a vast majority of these legal migrants that are here would leave. They would. They'd be gone. So all you do is you say, hey, if you're a third generation or if you're a second generation or if you're a first generation migrant, you are not eligible for a welfare program. Most of them would leave. That's why they're here. They're here because we're paying them to be here. Then you have a prorated approach with the rest of the migrants that are here. So now you got rid of all the illegals. You got rid of all of the migrants that are here that are just milking our system, that are literally robbing our people, because that's what they're doing. It is robbery what they're doing. $9 billion in fraud in my home state, Minnesota alone, just from the Somalis. That's not even all immigrants, just the Somali immigrants. And that's not even including all of the legal welfare they were on, because they're also over half of them are on welfare programs that aren't fraud. So they're committing fraud, and they're on legitimate government assistance programs on top of it. So all of this to say, if you just pull those programs, most of them will leave. So now you've gotten rid of all the illegals by debanking them, and then ICE can take care of the rest. You just got rid of the vast majority of the third generation migrants and newer because you just pulled their welfare programs. Then finally, you go ballistic on crime. You go extremely harsh on crime. Hey, if you are a third generation migrant and you commit over $100,000 of fraud or a violent crime, you're automatically deported back to whatever country you came from. If you're a second generation migrant, it's $10,000 of fraud and it's any felony or something of that nature. If you're a first generation migrant and you commit any crime whatsoever, automatic deportation. This is how you do this. Just like that, in a 3-phased approach, by simply getting rid of illegals by debanking them, pulling welfare programs, and then having a prorated system that deports based on criminal offenses, you've just gotten rid of 95% of these migrants that just got here, that are just milking our system, that don't care about America, and they're destroying our demographics, they're destroying our value structure. You just did that in a 3-phase approach, and it was super easy. Boom. So that's effectively, people ask how we do this. How do we go about remigration? That's how we do it. Yeah, if you commit a violent crime, I said, if you're a third generation immigrant and you commit a violent crime, like you literally sexually assault somebody or you murder somebody, you're deported. That's the point. So you shouldn't concern yourself with it. It's so funny with me. Like when people ask me about this, and they're like, they're concerned. It's like, dude, are you planning on committing one of these crimes? Like, what? Why are you so worried? Like, I just laid it out very, very carefully of what specifically you would have to do to be deported. So you can't just automatically deport without some sort of justification, and it has to be the same justification across every demographic. It really has to be. That's the only way to accomplish this. And so what I just laid out, no, it's not second. How is that second class citizens? Again, Like, this is just nonsense. This is nonsense to call them second-class citizens, because if they commit a sexual assault or fraud over 100,000, they get deported. How is that a second-class citizen? What are you talking about? What's dumb about it? Please tell me what's dumb about it. People want to know how to go about remigration. There you go. There's a plan for you. I said, what's dumb about it, buddy? Tell me what's dumb about it. Yes, that's how immigration works. Different laws based on migration status. That is how immigration works. That's how it works in every country. That's how it's always worked for all of history. All right, I want to show you guys this video so you guys understand what I'm talking about here. Yeah, literally, bro. Literally, like, why is this something you're worried about? Like, you're telling on yourself. If you're worried about this, you're telling on yourself. I'm sorry, but like, why are you concerned about this? What I just laid out. Is this what you're planning on doing? Is this what you had the intention of doing? Give me a break, people. All right. So I want to show you guys this this video from Eva that I really think kind of lays out, you know, why I care about this issue.
So if you have young white children in schools here in Europe, then you need to understand that the time of ordinary bullying is over. Something much more sinister has emerged across Europe, and it's something that I would characterize as racial humiliation rituals. Every single day, videos circulate online of immigrant youth who single out a white boy or a girl, force their victim to their knees, and then proceed to torment and abuse them. Now, don't think that that is random. The migrant kids that are doing this film themselves doing it, and they have actual terms, slang, that signify the process of what they are doing, which is to threaten and intimidate their white victim. They do it with intent. They do it because they are racially aware and they consider themselves the dominant group. White children, for decades, have been told the schizophrenic mind boggle that on the one hand, they shouldn't see color, on the other, they should be ashamed just because they are white.
So this is happening in Europe, and it's coming to the United States. This is what I try to tell people is, look, like, Canada, it's already happening in Canada, by the way, because Canada has even weaker immigration policy than we do. It's already happening in Canada. It's happening in Australia. It's happening in Europe. And it's probably happening here in the United States to an extent as well already. But I'm being gaslit. I'm being told that I'm not Christian for talking about this issue, when this is what's happening to Europeans across the world. Ethnic Europeans, white people across the world. And I show my work for all of this because I keep being told, people still, even after I did a whole episode on race, which people are in the comments strawmanning me. They're saying a racial hierarchy is not Christian. Yeah, dude, I know. Good thing in the very video you're commenting on, I literally said I'm not advocating for racial hierarchy. Good thing in the very video you're commenting on, I said that. Because I've made that abundantly clear on multiple occasions. So it's fine if you disagree. This is the thing. This is my plea to all of you who disagree with me. It's fine if you disagree. We can have a conversation when I start doing my call-ins. We can have a conversation if you disagree. But don't lie about me. Please do not strawman me, especially if you are a brother in the Orthodox faith. And then there's this catch-22, because I post the quotes of the saints. Like I posted St. Nikolai saying that what the white race is Europeans and Americans, because there's a lot of people who like to say that there's no such thing as the white race. And there's people in the comments saying, oh, who says there's no such thing as the white race? Playing dumb. And then there's other people in the comments literally saying there's no such thing as the white race. So this is all going on in the comments section. And I have given you guys the quotes you need. St. Nikolai explicitly defines the white race as Europe and America. He explicitly defines it as such. Okay, so this is not something that I'm pulling out of my rear end. Okay, this is something that is found in the neo-patristic witness. So, and then, so if I don't cite the saints, if I don't cite the saints, I get accused of going rogue, right? Oh, that's just Luigi's going rogue. He's off doing his own thing. None of that is Orthodox. Then if I do cite the saints, now I'm being told I'm weaponizing the saints. So it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter which side I fall on. Either way, I'm going to get attacked. And this is what I try to explain to people is like, those of you that are further right than me and those of you that are further left than me, you guys send me, some of you guys will send, advice about, oh, you should talk more about this issue, or you should talk more about this issue. You should talk less about this issue or that issue, whatever the case may be. And what I try to explain is that, look, if I move more to the right, or if I move more to the left, I'm just going to have more of that other population, the opposite population, attacking me. That's what you have to understand. That's what you have to understand about running a show like this, having a platform like this. Just trust me, I know what I'm doing a little bit. I promise you. I got you. Okay? I promise. So, anyways, so that's one of the many reasons that I care so much about these issues, is that's what's happening in Europe, and that's coming here. That's coming to the United States. It's coming quickly, and if we don't do something about it, it's going to be here before we know it. Now, a lot of you guys already know about like the like hate speech policies that are going on in the UK. I mean, there was that famous photo not too long ago of literally a Muslim police officer from the UK showed up to a young, like a 15-year-old girl's parents' house because their 15-year-old daughter had liked a like anti-migration post on like Instagram, and they're showing up at her door over this in the UK. Like, people are going to jail for supposed hate speech over these issues because it's now a criminal offense. So if you even talk about migration, and you talk about, if you say the things that I'm saying on this show in the UK, in certain parts of the UK, you go to jail. You go to jail. And that's another thing that's coming here to America, by the way, is we're losing our freedom of speech because there's certain populations we can't criticize, particularly the Jewish population and the migrant population. And there is a destigmatization of Muslim migrants, especially on the right. There are a lot of Muslim migrants who are, pretty ostracized by the GOP and Zionists. However, there's certain populations, such as like the Indian migrants, that nobody seems to want to talk about. They're only talked about on the far right because everybody like Vivek, who is literally an Indian himself, he's an anchor baby himself, is advocating for the H-1B program, which I've spoken many times that I am opposed to, of course. At this point, I'm in favor of shutting down the entire border. Sorry if I failed to mention that in my phased approach to remigration, but that's like literally step one. That's like literally step one is eliminating basically every single aspect of migration for now, at least temporarily. Until we get our demographics under control, until we stabilize our country, which, by the way, a stabilized America can do wonders for the entire world. If we were actually Christian, if we were actually prioritizing our own people, and we get to a point where we're stable, we can do wonders for the rest of the world. We can actually do things like, we don't have to meme about taking back Constantinople. We have a powerhouse military that can actually do it. We have a powerhouse military that can actually liberate the Middle East for good. Now, people are going to mistake this for me advocating for like some sort of military industrial complex. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about like 50 years down the line, when we've stabilized our demographics, when we're a Christian nation, when we have Christian leaders again. We can actually do good for the rest of the world, rather than right now, how we are a proxy for Israel, bombing Christian cities in Lebanon with bombs that we probably funded. Money that we give them every year, $3.7 billion to be exact. So right now, that is the condition of the United States. And it seems like whenever I talk about the globalist aspect of immigration and the role that it plays, I get people like attacking me on the right. And then if I start talking more about the immigration crisis as far as the ground level and the open borders policies, then I get people attacking me on the left. And it's like, you guys have to understand that you can't have one without the other. There is no open borders agenda without Zionism, and vice versa. They are deeply intertwined. Again, you have Benjamin Netanyahu spearheading the greater Israel agenda, bombing Christian nations, the clean break strategy, which then was confirmed to be U.S. policy by a 4-star general just a couple years later in the United States, right before Benjamin Netanyahu himself came to testify on September 12th, 2001, that we need to go to war with all these nations and go through regime change. So Benjamin Netanyahu is spearheading this as far as the right-wing Jews, the Zionists, and then George Soros openly advocating. His organization is called Open Society. I want to show you guys. In 2015, this goes right along with what I was talking about with the UN's policy. In September 2015, George Soros outlined a comprehensive plan to address European refugee crisis, proposing that the EU accept at least 1 million refugees annually. 1 million refugees annually. Fund this through long-term debt. So he wants us to go into debt. He wants us to go into debt to bring military-aged young men into our countries to ethnically replace us and rape our women. And he's the one that is funding this. Proposing 8 to 10 billion annually towards this. So, once again, they're telling on themselves. This stuff is wide open for anyone and everyone to read about. And you guys already know about the NGOs that are funding this. The UN's very own NGOs are part of this. As you can see, the International Organization for Migration, they have an entire NGO that is part of the UN. not officially, but obviously it was part of the UN system. I mean, it's an NGO, so technically it's not, but it's part of the system. Total expenditures reached almost $4 billion in 2020-24. $139 million migrants. That's what 7.9 billion. Are you kidding me? So once again, they're telling on themselves. Wide open. And it's not just, look, it's a lot of people like to talk about the JQ in regards to this context, but it's not only the Jewish NGOs. It is also, and this is to the Groypers and to the Roman Catholics, specifically the Roman Catholic Groypers, but anyone on the right who is anti-mass migration, look, like it's your NGOs that are funding the majority of this in the United States. You guys are getting paid thousands of dollars per migrant. Per migrant, the Roman Catholic NGOs are literally getting, specifically Catholic charities, are literally getting thousands of dollars per migrant to bring these people in. And then when the migrant gets here, they get another couple grand. It's Lutheran Social Services. It's Catholic charities. It's primarily in the United States. Yes, it is a lot of the Jewish NGOs too. But in the United States, it's the Christian one. It's the non-Orthodox. It's the Protestant and Roman Catholic ones. And this is why the Orthodox Church, again, and I'm going to go through my thread on this on a later date, but this is why the Orthodox Church is literally the only consistent bulwark against this. It's not the Roman Catholic Church. You guys are actually the problem. You guys are actually the problem right now when it comes to mass migration. So I want to go in depth on this stuff so that you guys you guys have the tools necessary, because I want our Roman Catholic and High Church Protestant brothers and sisters to see that their church is the problem here, because a lot of us are aligned on this issue, and their own church is like spearheading this. Now, it's true that the Jews were behind the initial subversion. That's true. But how it's being employed in the modern day is by the Roman Catholics. It is by the Protestants. It's like the Jews are playing a backseat role now. Except for, Amy Acton, who Nick Fuentes is now advocating for voting for. Except for her. She's a Jew that's at the forefront of this. But we're going to vote for her now. Makes sense. Welcome to memberships. Those of you who just joined, memberships. So, gonna be going into the home stretch of my stream here. I do have another clip I'm going to play from the State Department, and then I'm going to be going over super chats at the end. This has been a good stream, guys. Thank you for tuning in today. And I'm excited for Tuesday's stream because I am going to be going in. I'm going to be talking about Thomas Massey and that upcoming election. And I might also go through my thread that day on mass migration. We'll see. And then soon, I think I'm going to start doing call-in shows as well. And by the way, I'll take feedback if you guys think I should if you think I should do call-in shows on the evenings as a separate stream, or if I should maybe do some call-ins during the actual live show, where I go over current events at the beginning, and then at the end I do call-ins. All right, so I want to show you guys this clip because, listen, again, like most of this stuff that I'm talking about is wide open for anyone to see. It's wide open for anybody to see. So I want to show
No,
you, this
honestly,
is the State Department.
the people from Nebraska.
This is a Project Veritas clip here of the State Department openly admitting what their intention is here with replacement in the United States specifically.
They want to change the demographics of the United States. They really do. Because, I mean, no, honestly, the people from Nebraska, like my family's like Americans that have, my family's been in the United States for 400 years. Traditional standard Americans are not leftists. Latin America's all leftists. And it's just, it literally is. It's just to try to change the demographics. They want to change the demographics of the United States. They really do. Because, I mean,
so they're openly telling on themselves that this is the State Department openly admitting that they're trying to change the demographics of the United States. And so this is not organic. And this goes back to what I was talking about with that individual I had a back and forth with on Twitter. Is look, like there's nothing organic about this. There's nothing organic about this. In fact, it has been a coordinated effort, like I just laid out, and this is found throughout the Calgary Plan, specifically in Practical Idealism. This is found throughout the UN's own documents, the EU's own documents, throughout George Soros's own documents. None of this stuff is controversial for anyone. Like, it's literally right there out in the open. I would encourage anybody who disagrees, tell me which part of this, which objective fact do you disagree with? That's like what I like to ask. Like, which objective fact are you disagreeing with? That's my question. So, I haven't even touched really a lot of the saints quotes and the thread that I have. That's a full thread on sort of Orthodox policy with immigration. I haven't even touched that, so I'm definitely gonna go over that at a certain point. But this has been a good stream. I'm gonna go over a few of my super chats here. So if you guys want to send in a super chat, then I'm gonna go over those right now. Thanks, Octavian. Also, one of my newest mods. Yes, thank you for that. How can anyone have such self-hatred for their countrymen? Yeah, so this is something that I talk about frequently. It's like, look, like everybody else has a ethnic heritage that they are proud of, except for us. So we're the only ones that are not permitted to have this sort of ethnic heritage that we take pride in, not a sinful form of pride, but like just an ethnic heritage that we honor, and that we look at positively, that we bring into our identity. And the reality is, like, everybody else does this and it's celebrated, but for some reason, for white Christian men, then that's a problem. What are thoughts on people being against nationalism because they want us to Americanize Orthodoxy? I'm not sure if I understand the question. Are you asking because you think that these people think that nationalism is opposed to Americanism? One of the objections I've seen is that a lot of people, they say like, oh, don't Americanize my orthodoxy, orthodoxy my America. And like, that's true. See, this is a false dichotomy. This is a false dichotomy because I believe in doing both of those things. I believe that we need to do both of those things. We need to both Americanize our orthodoxy here, which means baptizing American culture, right? Which is making America Orthodox. It's orthodoxy, our America. We want both of those things. It's both and. We want to bring aspect. Look, like when other nations were baptized that were literally pagan, they still brought in cultural heritage into the church, because cultural heritage is actually, there is inherent value to cultural heritage. And so when they were brought into the church, when they were baptized, those cultures, they still maintain, you know, the benign aspects of it, the edifying aspects of it. And so that's what we need to do with American culture. I don't believe that Americanism is not compatible with nationalism. I think that's nonsense. I think that most Americans are nationalists. They just maybe don't know it because they don't understand what nationalism is. They don't understand that it's simply just honor our nation, loyalty to our nation, things of that nature. Montana can become an Orthodox state. Parish infrastructure is there and growing. Highlander Athos linked monastery and population of only 1 million. Yeah, so I mean, I know that that's where Father Deacon Ananias is up there in Montana. So yeah, glory to God for that. And yeah, I mean, that's another thing too, is we need to do this state by state. This is one thing that I've been talking about, is like, you know, we have to go about this really state by state. And this is true politically too. You know, like governor, like what Fishback is doing in Florida is really like, you know, paving the way for a lot of very similar candidates, and someone who is Orthodox potentially to run for a governor seat is being opened up by someone like Fishback. So whether or not you trust him, what he is he's evidence of, you know, the direction that the wind is blowing. And that is a good thing. Glory to God for that. W for more Christian nationalist insights. Okay, so these are a couple other, I guess, channels that he's plugging for Christian nationalist insights, and I'm going to be doing some collabs this week with other Christian nationalists, and particularly giving the Orthodox perspective and kind of where our seat is at the table. Because, you know, at the beginning days, you know, we're just gonna have a seat at the table, and then eventually we'll be heading the table. And that's the plan, is as we move forward to baptize America and create all these converts, right? We're going to end up actually being the ones running the show eventually. And we just need to be patient. We need to be consistent. So that's what this show is. That's why consistency is huge. So anyways, I'm taking feedback. Like I said, if what you guys want going forward is for me to do a separate call-in show, I will do that. Otherwise, I'm a little bit hesitant to doing evening call-in shows, only because I'm just going to be competing with so many other streamers. Because that's kind of what everybody does. And so let me know what you guys think about that. I know today was more of a short stream, but it was kind of an info blast. I gave you guys a lot of material, and so I don't want to go overboard with it by double dipping into my my immigration thread. That also, and kind of doing a deep dive, because I'm going to do a deep dive into that thread when I do go over it. And so all that being said, thank you guys for tuning in today. The show will be back on Tuesday for the standard format, just like today. And I'm going to be going over current events, as well as some stuff with Thomas Massey, and touching on some other topics as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, please give me a follow over at Real Ben Michael on all platforms. I'm particularly active on X and Instagram, so please give me a follow over there. And other than that, I will see you guys on Tuesday.